I went into Undertale pretty much blindly. From once I'd heard people everywhere yelling on the internet, "Oh my god, play this game. Papyrus is amazing. This game is amazing. Best RPG since sliced bread." And I, being quite busy at the time with school, didn't really get to play it. Not that I wanted to play it either. I thought the game was a cheap knockoff of Earthbound that had Earthbound music, and everyone was in love with their stupid mechanic and some skeleton named Papyrus. Then it invaded my personal life. Every music channel I listened to uploaded Undertale covers. My friends were talking about Undertale, and then the comments flooded in. Many asked my take on Undertale. I eventually bought the game after this comment. Not because he explained the game to me, but because I felt like being the only YouTube reviewer out there that would see this game for how bad and horrible and copycatish it was, and would publicly voice my honest and harsh opinion on this game. Sure, I'd get slander, but I would have integrity. After picking this game up, I played 30 minutes in and I was pretty bored, but impressed. The game actually impressed me, but the tutorial took so long that I got bored and dropped the game off and never picked it up until February's start. After that, I beat the tutorial, left the beginning section, and boom, Undertale truly began, and I loved every second of it. Humans and monsters, this is my review of Toby Fox's Undertale. Long ago, two races rolled over Earth, humans and monsters. Which doesn't make any sense, because monsters aren't a race, that's just a term for a thing, you know? Like, so technically it's humans and skeletons and sheep goat things and dogs and a bunch of... Okay, guys, listen, we can be cool about this. I'll tell it like it is, alright? Alright, I won't put logic aside. Long ago, two races rolled over Earth, humans and monsters. One day a war broke out between the two races. After a long battle, the humans were victorious. They sealed the monsters underground with a magic spell. And many, many millennia later, Undertale was born. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I really don't want to spoil any more of Undertale's story for those of you that have yet to play it. It's a fun journey, and it's best enjoyed without any pre-existing knowledge. Populating the cavernous world of Undertale are hilarious and charming characters that will make you at the very least laugh a bit at their quirky and odd personalities. But without a doubt, the best characters are those that either know they're in a video game, therefore making jokes that destroy the fourth wall, or those that know what you did in a previous save file. You can remember what you did, whether you want them to or not. In a traditional role-playing game, enemies are objects to get XP from, and the bosses are the real characters you want to interact with. But in this game, every enemy, even the smallest insignificant enemy, has a personality, a story, a dream, and friends, and they're fun to talk to in battle. While the characters are humorous, so is the world. For example, there are save points in Undertale marked by these shimmering stars on the ground. Usually next to them is a piece of cheese and a mouse hole somewhere. And upon saving, it will read, knowing that one day the mouse will leave its hole and get the cheese. It fills you with determination. Would you like to save? And later, the cheese is in a crystal, so now it says, knowing that one day the mouse will get the tools to get the cheese out of the crystal. It fills you with determination. It's subtle humor like that that fills this game to the brim with laughs and smiles from its players. Another way this game amazed me was with its choices. Choices that you never knew were present until it was too late to go back on them. In normal RPGs, you kill your enemies, so I played my first playthrough thinking that killing smaller enemies to gain XP while sparing bigger characters would keep me as a good guy. but every enemy matters, and every enemy is known in the world by other characters later on. This gives the world a sense of feeling alive and real and interconnected, which is just crazy to think about. The story keeps a concurrent theme of charm throughout the entire game, except when its story needs some dark and serious undertones to compel the player to move forward through the story. Along your journey through a dangerous underground, you'll be running into quirky and fun characters with an indescribable amount of personality. You'll make friends and you'll make enemies, and you'll be the one to decide their fate. Undertale's game mechanics are unorthodox for an RPG title. Sure, out of combat you walk around at a slow pace through towns and talk to NPCs like every other role-playing game out there, but it's the game's combat system which has shaken the roots of what an RPG is and how it is seen by the casual audience everywhere who would not be normally interested in playing an RPG title. For decades now, the turn-based RPG genre has grown stale and tired. Even the world's biggest turn-based combat fanatic would agree that the formula has practically stayed the same for hundreds of games now. Walk, enter into a battle, hit the attack button, deal damage, receive damage, rinse and repeat. Grind and grind. Sure, some games will change it up with new attack types or cool styles of the interface, but for the most part, that's been the formula for turn-based RPGs. But the way Undertale is so unique is that after each move you make, you have to fight your way through the enemy attacks by moving your soul to dodge the enemy's attack. It's really impressive as well that each enemy has different attacks that not only challenge you in a fun and usually humorous way, but also coincide with what the enemy is and how they act. But the thing that's garnered Undertale a lot of its attention is its ability to allow you to spare your enemies. Now, you can't magically spare your enemies and have that be that. If you look at the screen, you'll see a third button called Act. This will allow you to interact with the enemy in many various ways, from talking, joking, laughing, Oh no! While interacting with monsters and then having to avoid their attacks over and over may seem like a chore at first, it's all made worth it with clever dialogue from the monsters that then impacts their attack style. For example, you meet a side ghost, and if you compliment him, he'll get a little bit better, and after another compliment, he will make his tier attack flow upward, forming into a hat, instead of raining down on you so that you don't die. And on my first playthrough, I was unaware this was possible to do with the bosses as well. Sure, you need a lot of skill to dodge some of the broken attacks specific bosses have, but it's possible for new pacifist players out there. If you get bored easily, however, you can still attack enemies and bosses. Will these characters live or will they die? It is your choice to decide. Outside of combat is a fantastically designed world full of humor, hilarious inside jokes for classic gamers, and fun. Populating the world is a colorful cast of lovable and hilarious characters that will have you laughing, smiling, crying, and even feeling remorseful. And the way some of these characters are introduced is some of the funniest stuff ever. Whoopee cushion. And trust me, if you like the game even a tiny bit, you will be replaying it at least once. And this is as much a blessing to Undertale as it is a curse. You see, the issue that I have with this game is its world. Its world in this game is set up to be sprawling and massive, but once you get into it, it's actually rather small. By the time you make it to the first town, you've practically made it halfway through the game, especially if you plan on not exploring every single inch of Undertale's world. Yet we're at a crossroads again, because it's the limit of the world and the playtime that characters like Sans and Papyrus stick out and are so charming, and that you remember almost every single part of this world and this game, even weeks and maybe months after you complete it. Not only has Undertale pushed the boundaries of an ever-still RPG genre, it has shifted and morphed them into something brand new, yet cozily familiar, and fresh at the same time. The addition of the spare mechanic is what garnered Undertale most of its attention, along with its ability to integrate the story seamlessly into the combat. Something else that amazes me about this game is that if small characters that didn't even play that big of roles in the game were destroyed, it would make me sad that I was not skilled enough to save their lives. A word I can use to sum up the game's characters and its atmosphere is simply charming. It is quite the charming game. Though I will say you will only find it truly charming and funny if you can appreciate the jokes which are at times inaccessible to those not in the loop with inside jokes about certain gaming areas or genres or the internet. And this is probably what turned Undertale off for a lot of people that disliked it, especially the casual audience. And while I got all the jokes and references and found its wacky sense of humor charming and hilarious, there's a good chance you might not. And that is Undertale's Achilles heel. Undertale takes us right back to the good old days of the NES with its graphical style. This game's style is obviously based on the original Mother game, but because the modern technology looks smoother, better, and is able to have great animations that were not possible during the 80s. The presentation evokes elegance and simplicity, and as a Nintendo fan, I'm expected to love this 8-bitty art style, and I do. I love it to death. I think it's perfect for this game. The main character is designed to be gender neutral, so that if you're a guy playing Undertale, you see the main character as a boy, and if you're a girl, you see the character as a girl. The character's design is what allows this to happen, and it is a genius idea. I also want to take a chance to talk about the enemy designs. The enemies in this game are designed so charmingly, and it's also impressive that each enemy attack always has to do with the theme of an enemy or what the enemy is thinking. For example, if you're fighting a Washua, a monster obsessed with germs and staying away from them, and you ask it to clean you, its attack will now have healing bits to clean you. It may seem small, but scenes like this that gives Undertale its doses and massive amounts of personality. Toby also created a scene in this game that just feels absolutely breathtaking. You're on your way to Hotland, which is yet another place to stop before going to another place to get to a mysterious castle to fight the final boss and end your journey. And now you're just feeling hopeless, like the journey is going to be so long and so boring and forever. Then you walk out here, and with one look to where you're heading, everything changes. It's unbelievable that the developer of Undertale, Toby Fox, was able to create such a powerful and emotional journey almost entirely on his own. Here's where I usually talk about the game's soundtrack, but Undertale's music is not just a soundtrack, or music, it is art. And while that sounds overdramatic, it is not far-fetched at all. I really love Undertale's music. Every track has an emotional weight and scale that adds the extra oomph needed when you're in a boss fight, or just some ruins, or even a town. I personally feel that the music in video games is 50% of the atmosphere. It allows your mind to wander, creating half of the world yourself in your head, which is why it's such a shock when you realize how small Undertale actually is. Boss fights that have no background now have a massive background that match the feel of the fight because of the songs. Characters now have much more personality and mystery because of their music. Small towns are now a little bit bigger because, you guessed it, the music. It's something that all games should strive for, and it's also something Undertale hit home with. Guys, massive spoilers, so please leave if you have yet to complete Undertale at least once. Please, I swear, it'll be an experience you will not forget. Even if you can't play it for a few months, skip this section and come back later if you really want to. Now, this is where I usually talk about a game's end and some spoiler stuff. So first off, let me say, I loved Asgore's fight. I love how he's portrayed as, prior to the fight, as a good and jolly, all-around morally good-standing man, when the whole game builds up to him being this evil mastermind. Then, he attacks and he sends his apologies. Then he destroys the Mercy Buddy. I really thought this would mean no sparing him. Luckily it all works out and you can... What? Asgore! No! No! Who would do this? Who could do this? The freaking flower! Of course! Ah! Well, you know what, flower? I'll tell you where you can go. You can go straight to... The game isn't afraid to demolish the fourth wall either, especially at the end of the game, which is something that scared and intrigued me at the same time. I also love the mystery in the game, especially surrounding the character Sans. He's thought to be a crappy joke teller who doesn't know the wiser. But in reality, he is the most powerful character in the game, having attacks that would scare even the most experienced player. It took some people over 10 hours straight to beat his boss fight. In the end, Undertale has multiple endings, but there are three main ones. The pacifist ending, where you didn't kill anything and it's the real ending, then the neutral ending, where you killed a few things but not a lot, and then the evil ending, where you just destroyed everything. I love it when games have multiple paths that either reward or punish you for your actions, and that's what makes Undertale's endings so fantastic. So, Undertale, the little game that could. This game is fantastic. It's unlike any game that I've played before. Although, I will say, the game is a little short, and there's not as too much build-up towards the end of the game. And one of the biggest issues with it is that its humor is an acquired taste, so it might not be enjoyable for some people, as it is for others. Though through all of its issues, Undertale is elegant, it's simple, it's charming, it's funny, it's memorable, and most of all, it fills us with determination. Undertale is a fantastic game that should be played by every gamer, ever. Undertale gets a 9 out of 10. Don't buy lunch today. Eat in and treat yourself to a nice game of Undertale. Whew! Season 2 is finally premiered. I need a quick break. Nice cream time. Whoa!